hear anything. Oh, yeah, baby.
We are back, ladies and gentlemen. You are back with Seminole Sideline 365. As always, I am your host, or one of your hosts, KB.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're the only host now?
Sometimes it feels like it.
Yeah, that's just like...
Sometimes it feels like it.
Yeah. Just like they're trying to get rid of Lee Corso.
I think they already have.
I want my contract renewed.
Let me get my intro in. So alongside me is Bruce, aka the Old Man, aka the oldest living Florida State alumni, fan, and veteran. This is a veteran-owned podcast, so be sure to subscribe, like, and join the family. Follow us on Twitter if you haven't already. We appreciate your comment, support. If you want a t-shirt, maybe we'll send you one. We did hit our 100 follower mark on Twitter. So thank you again for everyone who gives us a follow. It is always appreciated. We appreciate the love that you guys show us and all the comments, feedback, whether it's positive or negative. We always appreciate that. So thank you all again for that.
Are the negative ones about me?
Mostly.
Oh.
So, but
Lord.
Yeah. So, yeah. How's it been going on your end?
Well, we had a hurricane today. Hurricane Nicole, I think it was.
Is that because we avoided a hurricane last week?
Yeah. We took down the hurricanes last week. So they sent a hurricane, a real one, up the Atlantic seaboard. And actually it came up through Tampa. And actually, I'll tell you what, I didn't take it that serious because I'm inland anyways. And it blew all last night. It really blew all last night and blew into about mid-afternoon today. Lots of rain. No damage here at my place, but a lot of people had power outages. So it was actually a Cat 1. It was actually much more serious than the Miami Hurricanes provided wind last Saturday.
Well, yeah, as always.
How are you? And it's coming up your way, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I hope everyone is doing okay down there. No, up by us, it's not too bad. Weather's fine. It's kind of supposed to be like 70s tomorrow. It was like 50s early in the week. So I'll take the warmer weather, but as you said, it's probably going to affect us later in the week. High school playoffs are starting up here in the DC area. I think they are starting in Florida as well. So it's a big weekend for high school football. Playoffs and stuff like that starting up. So it'll be interesting to watch those. See how those.
You know what I always say. Got to check the weather report, which we'll have at the end of the show tonight. Weather report.
It'll be an interesting one since we're in the dome, So, so we have a couple of fun things today going on. So we have the. Did we just switch?
You switched it.
I don't even know how I did that.
Yeah.
We have a couple things. So we'll go over a quick recap of the Miami game. Really, the good thing is there's not much to go over because it really wasn't much of a game. Then we'll go into our Syracuse preview, and we have a special guest. Do you want to give a quick background who we're going to bring on later today?
Yeah, we've got an exciting guest coming in, a Syracuse insider. And she is going to lay out exactly how this Syracuse team is going to try to take down the Noles. And I will introduce her in a little while. But her name is Emily Leiker. And we're excited to have her on the program.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll have her on about 8:45, I believe, is the plan. And like you said, she'll give us a preview of what to expect from Syracuse and what to expect in the matchup, because I think we're not sure what to expect from the game. As we've seen the past couple of weeks, they're kind of not playing so hot. But on any given Saturday, anything can happen. But let's break down the Miami game real quick. Let's go through the lasting thoughts. I know everyone's posted articles about the breakdown. You've seen the GIFs and the videos and the highlight clips. But if you had to give your one or two or even three biggest takeaways from that game, what have they been for you so far?
Well, yeah, just quickly, I think the biggest one, if you took a short clip of video from the Miami game, you would have the Jamie Robinson play, right?
Yeah,
You'd have
absolutely.
the play when Jamie Robinson actually tackles this guy with his just bare hands, manhandles. I think, was that the quarterback? I don't even remember.
Yeah, it was the quarterback. He
takes the quarterback and literally tosses him down. And I saw the referee coming in looking like, should I throw my flag? Should I throw my flag?
That would have
been
awful.
That would have been awful because it was a cool play that will last in the history of Florida State. And I think what it did, it signified the defense. That defense had such a great night. The offense had a massive night. It signified what happened in the game, that one play. So my takeaway from this game was that we just totally dominated both sides of the line of scrimmage. And that's what the fan base here in Tallahassee is looking for. The question is, we celebrated that. We celebrated the whole week. And we can say that the Miami program is a dumpster fire.
It is
because
it
is. It is. Let's be frank. But we're not going to take away what this team did because that's what you should do. When you're a good football team, you should go down there and light that thing on fire and push it off a cliff. Yep. Well, we pushed it off the cliff, and that game's going to be remembered. But the question is, where do we go from here when we go and take on the Syracuse Orange this Saturday? Can we trust this team? Can we trust our Noles that we are totally moving in the right direction and there won't be any missteps?
No. I'm just putting some of the stats on the screen. They've asked stats on the screen as we go through this, but like you said, the game was in the bag from almost the beginning, from that first touchdown that Jordan Travis threw. It's hard because I don't think you can really take anything away from this game just because there wasn't much fight put up by Miami at all. So it's hard to take away, like, how do you grow from here, other than it was the most complete game that your offense and defense put together all season in terms of you got production from your offense right from the get-go and pretty much through all quarters consistently, outside of not scoring in the third, but then you scored right, at the start of the fourth, which was a carryover. And your ground game was consistent all night long. You dominated on the line. Blocking was fantastic throughout pretty much. And you got the ground game going, which is what I've been asking for personally all season long, is give the tray and let him go. And you saw that happen. And on the defensive side, you bottle up the big play, you brought pressure, you got pressure, and you made it hell for them. You basically knocked out the starting quarterback, and then they were left with nothing else, and you didn't give up a touchdown. So, from that standpoint, you played your most complete game. Now, was it against quality competition? I would say no. I would say Georgia Tech probably gave you more of a fight than Miami did. And they were also playing a true freshman quarterback or a freshman quarterback. But they played with heart for 4 quarters. And I would say Miami played for 1 quarter with heart. To your point, we didn't see that defensive line pressure that we thought we would from Miami. They weren't able to disrupt the pocket, except aside from that first play of the game where I think they sacked Jordan Travis, or they broke the play in the back of the line. But outside of that, you didn't see it. And the offensive line, kudos to them. They blocked very well all night. And you saw those highlights on Twitter throughout the week of the run blocking and maturity there. And that's going to be a big deal on Saturday on the road in New York, because Syracuse is a team that struggles or has been struggling throughout the season with the run and defending the run. And it's another opportunity for you to dominate a lesser quality team and run it down the throat again. So once again, can Florida State dominate teams they should dominate? Can they go on the road, take care of business just like they did last week, and do the same thing? Or they think ahead? Do they start thinking ahead to Florida in a couple of weeks? Or are they unfocused?
No, there's no thinking ahead here.
I'm not saying they should be, but I'm saying, can they focus? Are they now the type of team that focuses week to week, says, took care of business on the road, we played well, next opponent's in front of us. We dominate the teams we should dominate, and we move forward. That's what I want to see this weekend.
Well, that's the trust factor. That's the trust factor that I'm talking about. Is can the fan base are they being sucked in a hole that we can trust, that we can go up as we go up to Syracuse, as you say, and we go in and we continue. Listen, you know what the good teams used to say? You know what we're going to bring. You know we're going to rush the football. We're gonna see if you can stop it. We're gonna see if you can stop us running the football right down your throat. And when we do that, and you start creeping up, we're gonna employ the play action passes, and we're gonna burn you because we can do both. We can do all three. You know, we can throw the ball long, we can throw the ball short, and we can run the damn ball down your throat. So that's what this team. This is what the fan base is looking for now. This is not a great Syracuse team, in my belief, in my opinion. We're going to find out here in a few minutes when our special guest comes on here, when Emily comes on to tell us what she really sees in this team, the Syracuse Orange. But as a Florida State fan, I'm not going to do rah, rah, rah. I believe this offense is cranked up now. And is this the ultimate offense that Mike Norvell was famous for at Memphis? Are we now seeing that because he has the people in place and we're finally getting some average plus? Do I say good, average plus to good offensive line play?
Yeah, I think you are starting to see mixtures of that. Like you said, it's a little bit of talent. It's a little bit. I think it's a lot of buy-in, and it's finally, and I think it's Mike Foley being the play caller too. I think it's Dillingham's gone. You have players that fit into the system. You have development on the offensive line, and people learning the playbook on the defensive side. I think it's a mixture of all three things. But I think especially on the offense, it is a mixture of talent, play calling, and buy-in, and it's all three of those things coming together. And it's really taken and development too. Jordan Travis has gotten a lot better, and his commitment to being a passer versus a runner is evident.
It's unbelievable. Yeah, it's really like totally different. That he really wants to stay in the pocket and he wants to throw that ball down. He knows he can run. He's being very selective in his runs, and he's getting down or out of bounds.
Yeah,
he's finally figured that out.
Yeah, and I think the thing is different too is that I think he trusts that he has weapons that will make the plays for him too. I don't think 2 years ago he trusted the people around him, and he felt like he had to run because if he tried to make a throw, either A, he didn't trust he could do it himself, like make the throw, but B, I don't think he trusts the weapons around him to make the play either. And I think now he's seen the commitment that the coaching staff has made to bring transfers in, the Johnny Wilsons, the Micahs, the Deuce Spans, the people like that says, we're going to get you the weapons around you. We'll make a playbook to get these guys open. We'll run the plays, draw the plays up to get guys open. You just got to make the passes. And we'll bring guys on the line to protect you as well. So we had 3 or 4 offensive linemen transfers, and we don't even talk about the guy from Charlotte who's been playing very well on the offensive line.
Emmanuel.
Yeah. So I think he's seen the investment that the coaching staff has made to make him, and this is, and also to that point, I think we forget this is the first year that he's been the sole starter. Last year, the year before that, he wasn't the starter. Last year was Milton, him, and he wasn't the starter. And this is the first year that they said, you're the guy, your job, here are your weapons, here's your line, lead it. And I so far, like I said, it hasn't been perfect by any stretch, any means. He's not a Heisman contender, but from what you've seen, I mean, he's a top 20, 25 quarterback. I mean, in my eyes, he when he is in that pocket and he stays in it, he can hit the big throws. Now, it's not always consistently, but he can make all the throws on the field in my mind. And he still has a dynamic playability where he can run off and he can run for 15 yards, 20 yards, or even break one off for 60
when he has to.
That's what's impressed me the most is that he really has committed himself to become a better passer, and he trusts the players around him, which is huge. And that's kudos to the coaching staff for getting those players and
a better decision maker.
Yes,
a better decision maker. There's no reason to try to force balls in.
Mhm.
Okay, if you're going to do that and put your team in a bad situation in field placement, it's not good for the football team. I think he's made great strides in doing that, and I think he is going to take this roadshow, this offensive roadshow, to the Dome in Syracuse and light it up.
Yeah. The only thing on that before we go on to Syracuse, I think he still does take a couple of sacks that he doesn't have to, where he tries to make a play and he could just throw it away. I think that's one of the things he can still improve upon. I still think he tries to dance around a little bit too much, and he's afraid to just throw the ball away sometimes. So I want him to improve on that. But yeah, like you said, he's going to take this high-powered offense on the road to Syracuse, and I think our guest is here, and we can start talking about more in depth on the Syracuse game. So I'm going to bring in Emily right now.
Emily.
Hi.
Hey, Emily, can you hear us?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, okay. I can. Emily, we're so glad that you're here to join us tonight and to tell us how Syracuse is going to take down Florida State. But I want to introduce Emily to everybody out there who will see us tonight and see us in the future on this show, because people are going to be looking at this. Emily is Emily Liker, right? Liker.
Yes.
I got it right. Thank you, Emily. Emily, this is your first season covering Syracuse football as the sole beat reporter for Syracuse.com, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
As well as you do outstanding work for the Post-Standard, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
And you previously, are you a Missouri Tiger? Is that where you went to school or somewhere near there?
Yes, I graduated from Missouri in May, so just graduated.
Super. Well, congratulations. And you've also covered the Missouri Tigers of the SEC while you were in college for 2 seasons. That's outstanding. And you've been an intern for USA Today. So that's a well-known organization as well. What got you so interested, Emily, in sports and sports journalism?
Well, I grew up in a sports family. We were a NFL Sunday type of family, spent the whole day on the couch. I'm from the West Coast, so it was pretty much you got up at 10 a.m., we're watching football until 9, and then went to bed and had school the next day and stuff like that. So I grew up watching football. My brother, who's 3 years younger than me, played it. I played soccer. So just around sports a lot. And then I also had an interest in writing. So it just kind of happened one day, I think in like middle school. My dad was like, you can do sports writing. Like, that's a thing you can do. And I was like, oh, really? And from then on, it was just kind of what I wanted to do.
Well, that's great, Emily. That's great. Well, we appreciate you coming on the show here tonight and giving us and giving our viewers an inside look of what you think this Syracuse football team is and the program itself, where they are, especially coming off 3 losses. They started, I think, 6-0, then lost 3 ball games, the last 3 games, which were tough games. I'll say that. They were tough. And we are, we want to know your insight of what's going on. And then we're going to ask you some really hard questions. And none of this has been scripted, correct, Emily? Because we don't do that.
Correct. This is you're getting me on the spot. So.
The hot spot. Okay, Emily, tell us about how this football team can beat Florida State.
Yeah, well, it's been an interesting season for Syracuse. Like you said, they started 6-0. No one really expected them to do that. The expectation was kind of another middling season, potentially another losing season, maybe Dino out the door at the end. And so then to come out to this 6-0 start, the fan base was thrilled. People were really shocked. The program was really high on itself. And then they played this game down at Clemson. They led at that point, number 5 team in the country for 3 quarters, and things just fell apart at the end. Self-imploded. A lot of things went wrong. Gave up a lot of ground to Will Shipley, Clemson's very talented running back, and that was kind of that. And the first loss went in. And then it was okay. They're going back home. They're going to play Notre Dame. Everyone thought that might be a little bit more even contest, and they got blown out, partly because the starting QB, Garrett Schrader, was pulled at halftime due to an injury that no one really knew about until the moment he was pulled. He looked gimpy in the first half of that game. He wasn't nearly as mobile as we've seen him all season before that. And so it was kind of like, oh, there's definitely something up, and it must be pretty serious for him to get pulled in a game like this. They were already trailing at halftime, went on to lose that one. And then last week at Pitt, Garrett didn't play at all. So that was another kind of tough loss for them, 19-9 on the road. Pittsburgh just isn't a place they play very well either, from what I've understood. So yeah, I mean, the biggest question going into this game, I think that fans have, that I have, honestly, because we don't know a lot about the quarterback situation, is whether Garrett Schrader is healthy and he's going to be in. Because I think if he is, that evens out the playing field a little bit. But if he isn't, this offense is probably going to struggle again this week.
Yeah, it sounds like your Dino's policy is like Coach Norvell's policy here on injuries. There's really no discussion. And in fact, I think most of our local beat reporters, they don't even ask about it, because the policy is basically the university, the athletic department, and the football team. They don't give out any information. So that is what we're talking about here in Tallahassee is Garrett Schrader, is he going to play or he isn't going to play? And get ready, because I'm getting ready to ask you that. Because down here, they feel like if he plays, we could have a ball game. We feel like we're going to win the ball game. However, if he doesn't play, we feel like we're going to run up and down the field. You're not going to even have a chance. It's going to be a blowout. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I would agree with that sentiment. I mean, I predicted that Syracuse will lose this week. I don't think it's hard to see them
coming. You better lock your doors right now.
I know, they're going to come find me, all the Syracuse fans. But I mean, it's hard to make a call on Schrader, just because we don't get to watch practice. The last time I saw him was he did warm up for the Pitt game. So I watched him from the press box looking down at the field, and he certainly didn't look at 100% mobility-wise. He was fine throwing the ball, all of that. But when the team came out for kickoff, he was back in street clothes and was not suited up for the game at all. So clearly something in warm-ups did not indicate to the team that he was good to go. We don't know if he's been practicing this week. Dino's very veiled about all that stuff. Even tonight, I was listening to his radio show, and he got asked about Garrett, and he kind of just deflected the question into some other things that Syracuse needs to focus on if they want to win this game. So I would tend to think it will probably be Carlos Del Rio Wilson again, just because of how gimpy Schrader still looked last week, though I guess I could see a scenario maybe where they split snaps, but Dino's not really fond of that either. So I think he'd just pick one way or the other. And this late in the season, if Garrett's not healthy, I think he'll just go with Carlos.
Yeah, I'll have one other comment, then KB, you can ask some questions. This is going to be very interesting, because this is kind of like the Miami thing, with Tyler Van Dyke. He's been hurt. All week they disguised whether he was going to play or he wasn't going to play. He starts the game. He gets hammered. He didn't get hammered. He threw one pass with a shoulder.
He threw it away, and he just blew.
He threw it away, and he was in pain. And then he tried. And then they rotated quarterbacks. I thought it was chaotic offense for Miami, even though they got a chaotic program anyways. It'll be interesting to see if they try to march Schrader out there to see. But you have no idea if it's an upper injury or a lower leg injury. You don't have any clue.
Well, we haven't been told officially, but pretty much the agreed upon sentiment is that it's a lower body injury. I mean, he's throwing fine. That's not a problem.
But it's a leg or ankle injury, something like that.
Yeah, it's a lower body thing.
Okay.
There was a moment in the Notre Dame game where he got tackled on one of the only 2 rushes he had that game, and had his ankle smushed a little bit, and so we think that re-aggravated something. He got up and he kind of hobbled off, almost like fell over, and that was near the end of the half. So he played out the rest of the half, but then didn't come back after that. So yeah, it's something lower body for sure. Or I guess I can't say for sure because Dino hasn't said that. But
come on, you can tell us. Emily, we can tell us. Tell us now.
From observation, I would say it's like 99% sure it's like a lower leg injury.
Okay. KB? KB, we can't hear you, buddy.
I muted myself.
Okay.
Like you said, I think Schrader really is the catalyst for if this can be a game or not. He's a dynamic player with his leg. I think his legs are the biggest thing here because he makes that offense more dynamic than it is right now. And that goes into my next question. So we don't know if he's going to be ready for the game or not. So I really want to focus a little bit more on Sean Tucker because he has not looked, the team has not looked the same in the last 3 games, and neither has he. We're talking about the number 1 running back last season for the ACC, all-purpose yards, rushing yards, as a freshman last year. And so I know there's big expectations for him and what he was going to bring in the season. And he started hot, to begin the season, but then he's, 232 yards against Wagner is Wagner, right? But and then North Carolina State, he had almost 100 yards on 7 yards per carry. But the last couple of games, he's cooled down. I think over the last 3 weeks, he has 130 yards total. So a little under 40 yards per game if you average it out.
You're ranked number 96 in the nation for FBS games, FBS 1A games, and you're getting 119 yards for the game.
So I'm just going to ask you, what is the feeling around? Is it they're not scheming him correctly? Is he dealing with an injury? Why has he been off track? And is it just because they've been getting down, or like what is the deal with Sean? What should we expect from him? Are they trying to get him more in the offense going into Florida State? What should we expect come Saturday with him?
Yeah, so this is something I've written about a couple times this season because it has been a big talking point. Just because people feel like he hasn't been nearly the same running back. This week I looked specifically at his explosive play count, and it's way down. The team's explosive play count in general is way down, despite the fact that they were 6-0 at one point this season. But yeah, it's really a couple things with Sean. I think most recently, these past 3 games, the biggest thing has been the scheming and the play calling because against Clemson, he only had 5 carries.
Yeah.
That majorly upset people. People were up in arms about that, and rightfully so. I mean, you're in the biggest game of the year, and you only give your star running back the ball 5 times. And the excuse then, or the reasoning then, I won't say excuse, but the reasoning was that they had schemed up QB reads, and it was just Schrader was pulling it. Okay, whatever. But then same thing happened against Notre Dame. I think he only had a little bit over 15 carries, between 15 and 20, which is well below his season average. Yeah. And then this past game, he had 10 carries for 19 yards, which that gets into a little, okay, well, that's probably also some of his fault, though that gets into a second point, which is the offensive line. Hasn't really been a huge issue this season, but last week they were missing their left guard, Kalen Ellis, and he's still doubtful, maybe probable for this week. The O-line coach said tonight that they're hopeful that he'll be back. So that was an issue, the O-line play. Sure. There was a lot of collapsing the pocket last week. And so I don't entirely blame Tucker for the 19-yard performance there. But then, yeah, the third thing is early in the season, he went down a couple times. He went down in the Louisville game. He went down in the Purdue game briefly. And then the Wagner game, he left the field on what was kind of a controversial moment, early in the second half, because Syracuse was already up by 40 plus points, and Dino had put his first stringers out there for the first drive of the game, which he says is a classic football coach move. I would maybe contest that a little bit, especially because Tucker had already been hurt twice at that point. Nothing's happened since then. We've never seen him in a boot or extra wrapping when he comes out to talk to media or anything. He's said he's fine multiple times, said he's healthy. I've talked to other people that are close to him that say he's healthy. Dino says he's healthy, but there is still a sentiment that maybe there's something there, or maybe he was injured earlier in the season and is fine now, but there's maybe a mental block going on there where he's not running as hard because he's worried about whatever happens.
Let me ask you this. Yeah, Emily, let me ask this on follow up to KB. And this is just a theoretical. Do you think he has a motivation issue that maybe he's like, I'm going to ride this out and then I'm going to go into the portal? Have you heard any rumors like that?
No,
because he has some value, obviously, as last year.
Yeah, I think the bigger, not concern. I mean, most people are expecting he's going to go to the NFL after this season. That's been Yeah, because he is technically a third-year guy. He didn't play a ton in 2020, but he was around. That was his true freshman season. And now he's a redshirt sophomore. So he is draft eligible. And especially after last season and going into this one, that was the prediction, was that he would explode this year and then go off and be a high draft pick. Now, probably wouldn't be as high of a draft pick. That's something I'm going to be digging into in the next couple of weeks, is finding out maybe where he slides. I do think personally maybe a transfer portal is in the question. Though I would still probably say that it's more likely that he just leaves for pro than he does transfer somewhere else. But none of that has come up in conversation with him yet.
Okay. I think we're going to see a lot more of Carlos Del Rio Wilson, right?
Mm-hmm.
And with that, he's a transfer, isn't he? Or
he's a freshman, redshirt freshman.
I don't know why I thought he went to Florida.
He did, yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. He was at Florida, right?
Yeah, he was a redshirt freshman, or he is a redshirt freshman. He transferred from Florida, like literally a week after I started my job. So back in like May. Yeah. And he didn't play at Florida at all. Like I think he didn't even see the field once, but he came up here, and so yeah, he's a Florida guy.
He's Jack Del Rio's son, correct?
I think so. Yes.
Yeah.
It would make sense. I believe he is. But all I know about him, what I've read about him, is that he isn't Grant Trader, but he has some of that athletic ability to fit into that offense in a way where you have to respect his legs. Like what else should we know about him? What you've seen from him? I know he probably can't operate offense the same way, but how mobile is he? And do you think he can? What should we expect from him on Saturday if he gets a majority of the snaps?
Yeah, he is definitely a dual threat, just like Garrett is, and does use his legs. I think we saw that a little bit more in the Notre Dame game and his appearance in the second half of that, rather than the Pitt game. Again, there's those offensive line issues that I think just hindered some of that type of play calling and opportunities to do that. I think the biggest thing for him right now is just that he's so new, and I really don't think he was getting that many snaps with a lot of these offensive guys, these first stringers, until last week. And so he's still trying to build up all this chemistry. One interesting thing that's happened, though, is kind of through the first half of the season, there's a lot of discussion that Syracuse didn't really have a number 2 receiver, like tight end Aronde Gadsden, who's the son of Aronde Gadsden the first, who's famous Miami player, wide receiver. He had kind of been Schrader's like number 1 target. He's made some huge plays this season, has absolutely been a star. He's been like the breakout Syracuse player this year. But there was no one behind him that they could go to if he was double teamed or triple teamed, which is now what's happening because everyone knows to look for him on film. And so with Carlos coming in and him, I think, being a little less experienced with the receiving core, he's actually connected with some of these guys that we haven't seen at all and have been more minor players like DeMarcus Adams or Damian Alford, who are 2 younger guys. And so that's kind of been an interesting element of Carlos coming in, is that it's opened up the receiving game a little more, instead of just, well, if there's going to be a downfield pass, it's going to go to Aronde Gadsden because, you can trust him. I think that's been helpful for Syracuse's offense. And if they've figured that out a little bit more in practice this week, that could be a threat on Saturday.
Sure. And just, I don't know if you knew this or not, but DeMarcus Adams is a former Florida State guy who started at Florida State. Yeah. I honestly didn't realize he was on. I just looked up the roster and you mentioned his name, that, he started at Florida State with Willie Taggart. And then, we know what happened there. So that was our own dumpster fire. We've had our share. This is very interesting stat, I think, and it can be read in different ways. But nationally, again, against the FBS 1A teams, mostly your conference foes, obviously, Syracuse is ranked number 4 nationally, 96% red zone conversions. Now we have struggled in red zone conversions compared to you at number 4. Florida State's at 102. 102. Now, we're clicking along at 75% with 23 touchdowns and 5 field goals. Syracuse, 96%,
16 touchdowns, and 9 field goals. How would you explain that to us?
I mean, I think
what does that mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it really just comes down to, I think, once they get in range, they usually find a way to execute. I mean, they have enough tools on this offense when it's at full health and capacity. Like, you can hand it to Schrader, he can run it in. You can hand it to Tucker, he can run it in. You have multiple wide receivers who can bring it in. So, like, once they get in range, you have Andre Schmidt who can kick a field goal from, I mean, in the dome, we saw him do 54 yards 2 weeks ago. So they don't have to move the ball very far for him to get it. Like, they don't need to be in the red zone for Andre Schmidt to clear a field goal. But I think really it's just that they're so multifaceted that once they get in range, it's not difficult for them to put points on the board. But depending on who's manning the offense, as we saw last week with Carlos Del Rio Wilson, they struggled to move the ball out of their own territory, and there's a lot of a lack of third down conversions and a lot of 3-and-outs. So they struggle sometimes getting to the red zone, but once they're there, they can pull it off.
Yeah, you're on third downs, which I follow these on Florida State or other teams too. We're number 11 in converting third downs at 50%. You're number 89 at 35%. And that third down means a lot, especially in possession. But we used to track time of possession. Well, we had the ball more than you did. Well, it doesn't matter unless you're putting points up on the board and converting. A lot of times we could get into the red zone and we couldn't convert because we couldn't trust our field goal kicker. Well, he's gained some confidence, but I'd hate to have a kickoff at the end, like soccer. I don't want to have the 2 field goal guys going in there because we probably might not come out well in that. KB, you see what I'm saying about them in the red zone?
Yeah, both teams suck in the red zone, in my opinion. So I mean,
what are you talking about? They're number 4 in the red zone.
I don't think I think they're going to struggle against us. I think they're going to struggle against us. Okay. I have a whole nother question though.
Okay.
So you brought up Gadsden. He had 0 yards last week against Pitt. Was he? I don't think we covered. Was he hurt or just ineffective with Del Rio in the game?
He was in. I think Babers said Monday that Gadsden had 5 targets, which if I recall, that sounds about right. He had a couple drops. That wasn't ideal. He was in double coverage pretty much the entire game. So I think it was just that Carlos, as an inexperienced quarterback, wasn't going to try and throw into double coverage.
Yeah. Smart guy.
The reason I bring it up is because he's, like you said, he's the playmaker. He's literally the playmaker. He's 6th in receiving the ACC. He's 4th in touchdowns, 8th in receptions. He's the star on that team right now. Without Schrader, even with Schrader, he's probably the star on that team. With Tucker playing like he is right now, he's the guy. So, Emily, in your opinion, if you had to pick a guy that's going to have 100 yards on Saturday and win the game, is it Tucker or him? If one has to pop off, which one would you pick to win the game?
It's hard because if Schrader was playing, I would like smash the button on Gadsden. Like, he's just been a lot more consistent, and the two of them click so well. The fact that we don't know if Schrader, I don't know that either of them make it to 100 yards. Like, we haven't seen Schrader make it to we haven't seen Tucker make it to 100 yards since Wagner, which, like you said, that's not a difficult feat to do. And the last time before that was the only conference game he's got 100 yards in was the season opener against Louisville. So I don't necessarily see either of them making it to 100 yards in the game if Schrader's not in to throw it to Gadsden.
Okay, that's interesting. I'd see Gadsden as the player, obviously Florida State has to watch out for. Like you said, if he's struggling to connect with Del Rio, then that totally makes sense, and that's a wash. But this is a 6'5" receiver that can, obviously against NC State made plays, and against Virginia Purdue, he can make plays. But like you said, if he doesn't have that connection with Del Rio and you can double him and Tucker's not effective, then like you said, it's kind of a wash at that point because you can't do it all.
Emily, what questions do you have for us?
Oh, that's a good question.
If you had one question,
the 3-pronged running game. I know they have 3 running backs, but Trayshawn Ward has been injured, correct, or has been out. Benson is obviously popping off. I put that in my scouting report earlier. But like, how regularly do they rotate them, and what's kind of the usage out of the 3 of those guys? Because that's, the biggest struggle Syracuse has had defensively the past 3 games and all season. Because otherwise, Syracuse's defense is pretty solid.
I'll pass
Yeah.
it to KB, but I will say this: it's been easier with Ward out of the lineup to give people carries.
Yeah.
But go ahead, KB.
No, I think the room's fairly healthy, and Bruce just said, Trayshawn's going to be ready to go
Yeah.
On Saturday.
I think he'll be on a rep count, though.
Yeah,
I think
I think, and I've said on this show many times, is that I think Trey's got to be the number one guy just because he's a bulldozer, and he's your bulldozer, but he also has speed to breakaway. And I think if that defensive line isn't elite at some level, he's just going to bruise them. And then if it comes to the third or fourth quarter and it's a tight game, it's just going to wear you down. So I think they've realized that if you get that guy 18 carries and your defensive line wears down, I mean, he had. That we rushed for close to 200 yards against Clemson. They have a pretty decent defensive line, and no offense to Syracuse, but I don't think they have that level of defensive talent. So you throw him as your bruiser guy that can break away, and then you have Tua Philly behind him, who's that speed scat back who can catch passes out of the backfield, and then you have Ward, who's just a cherry on top. Then and you don't need to get him injured any more than he is. Put him on the rep count, throw him in there every so often. I think you're going to see Benson get probably 15 plus carries again, and just let him
and if he doesn't
hit the next level too.
If he doesn't get 15 carries, KB's pounding on the desk. Just like Sean Tucker, people are going, well, what's going on?
Yeah, if we lose, it'll be because of something stupid like that. So
I agree with KB. I think Ward will play. I think he's going to be on a rep count. I think Benson gets a big share of the carries, and then Teofili, who's a slight looking guy, but he's proven he can run inside now. And when he slithers inside, he can go, and he can go fast. They're going to run the ball down your throat. So you can tell Coach Dino that. We're not trying to be nasty about it. It's just the truth.
I think last week was the first time where we said, oh, we found something that works. Let's just keep running it until it doesn't work. And we finally stopped being cute with our offense. And Miami couldn't stop the counter. We ran it 30 plus times. And
counter play.
They couldn't stop it. And look how the game went. And I think we'll try the same thing against Syracuse. If they can't stop the counter, if they can't stop the read option, whatever it is, then Norvell's going to keep running that variation of that same play until they can prove that they can. I think they've tried to get out of the stupid Wildcat goal line plays and crap like that. Keep it straight in front. We've realized we don't have to make it complicated, hopefully. So I think that's how they'll approach this game. But you never know. Mike, I think, gets in his head sometimes. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think that's going to be really where the game sets up. Jordan Travis has had a lot of success running the ball last year. This year, he's really trying to be a drop back passer, stay in the pocket, and deliver the football because he's looking for the next level. And they want to see, they knew he could run. They knew he was good with his legs, and he'll still make those plays. But now he's more focused on delivering the football. So if we're running, if the rushing attack, which is still over 200 yards, when you throw all the teams in there that we've played, okay, they're still over 200 yards. They're going to run the ball, and that sets up the play action, Emily, as you know. And when your guys start creeping up to stop that run, to fill the box, then they're going to throw it over your head. And they got some guys that can do that can go long. So some of this is going to be about possession of the ball and quality possessions. If Syracuse can have quality possessions, cash in on the red zone, they got to take the ball away from that Florida State offense. Otherwise, I think Florida State, if they're clicking, they could have a big game. But that's what the fan base here is waiting to see, that there's no hiccups. They go up, can take care of business. And we're not trying to be arrogant because we're probably the least arrogant guys on the Florida State side covering this stuff, correct? But I think that's kind of how this thing's going to shake out unless we're turning the ball over or we have a lot of penalties. We've cleaned up a lot of those things, and we hope that doesn't derail anything up there on Saturday.
Yeah. But I think it'll be fun to see because some of our followers think that Ward will start and they'll because to their point, Syracuse defense isn't bad. Syracuse defense tackles relatively well and they don't give up a ton of points at the same time. Peak game last week was even with a backup quarterback, your defense hung in there and only held them to 19. So I think that it'll be on our offense not to make those mistakes, right? I think from what I've seen about the Syracuse defense, it's a bend but not break type of mentality, which is very similar to Florida State's defense. Is give up yards, but don't give up the big play. Keep it all in front of you. And I think Syracuse kind of operates in a similar fashion, is try to keep everything in front of you, tackle well, and then give up and to what Bruce said about red zone defense being pretty good. Somebody's got to break. Somebody's going to give on either side, right? So, and we're hoping Florida State doesn't, is the one that overcomes it and wins the game. But I think Florida State, if they can, keep control of the ball and run it, like we did last week, then they should win. But I think it will be a close game on the road because, like you said, Syracuse is a much tougher opponent than Miami was last week. So, and if you guys get Schrader back, that'll be interesting. So. If you get some breaking news on injury news or something like that, you should tell us and we'll pass on to the fans because, like I said, some of our people came in late and they're like, "What's the injury status?" Stuff like that. So we know that you're like you said, you're not sure. You're hearing things here and there, so we don't have a confirmed status of what the status is. But if you hear anything, let us know.
Yeah,
right,
I will.
Go ahead.
I will say I saw the comment, and I can say it's definitively not a concussion. That is like the one thing that has been taken off the board because. Okay. After the Notre Dame game, Dino came out and was obviously talking post game, and he started to talk about his reasoning for pulling Schrader out, and was talking about protecting guys from themselves. He still wanted to play, and was referencing the Tua Tagovailoa situation from Miami earlier this year, and that thing. And so I asked, I was like, well, does Schrader have a concussion? And he was like, no. And I was like, so no head or neck injury? And he said no. So that is the one thing that has been taken off the table is is not a concussion, a head related injury. So that is the one definitive we have.
Okay. And is there just one last question for myself? Were there any other key injuries or injuries on the defensive side that we didn't discuss or we should expect for going into this weekend?
I don't think on a week-to-week basis. They've had some unfortunate season-ending injuries this year. Garrett Williams, the cornerback, being the most recent one. He was a big loss.
He was your best corner, wasn't he? Wasn't he the best corner?
Yeah, Deuce Chestnut is very close behind him. Another very talented player. He's younger, but he will be an NFL guy within the next couple of years. And Isaiah Johnson, who's coming to replace Garrett, has been pretty good. Garrett Williams has been pretty good. Otherwise, no, not anything week to week that I can think of on the defensive side. And the only thing offensively is that left guard that I mentioned, besides Schrader.
Okay. So the defense we saw last week against Pitt should be the defense we pretty much see this week.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Got it.
Emily, you've given us a good 30 plus minutes here. We always say 15. That's just to bait you to come on, But the last question we have for you, and you kind of already hinted to it. What's your score in this game, Emily? And lock your doors now and turn out the lights. What's your score?
I did have to hold on. I'm pulling it back up because I will be honest. I don't remember off the top of my head because I sent it in. I sent it in Wednesday morning because that's when we always do our picks. Okay. I said Florida State 28, Syracuse 13 was my score prediction.
Okay.
I do think Syracuse will put a touchdown on the board, as unlike they did last week. I think the JMA Wireless Dome, a great place to play. The Carrier Dome, as it's formerly known, and how you probably know it.
Yeah.
And I think that will give them a little motivation. It's senior day, so there's going to be a lot of high emotions as well. There's a lot of guys graduating and leaving this program, so I think that'll give them at least the stamina and the energy to get one touchdown in, and then hopefully keep Florida State below 30 points.
Last question, Dino Babers. Is he in trouble? Is he on a coaching hot seat, or do you suspect he might ride if he could get to 7 wins, and would he leave? Would he step out and take another offer? He's been there 7 years, right? This is his 7th year.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to be fired. One, because there's a huge payout that would need to be paid if he did. I believe it's reported at $10 million that they would have to pay him out. So Syracuse doesn't really want to shell out that cash. And even before the season, John Wildhack, the AD, had said that Dino wasn't on the hot seat. I think his current contract runs through 2024. So they want to just probably keep him around. through then. I think certainly the fact that they made a bowl game, which is something they haven't done since 2018, helps keep that seat cool. I think honestly the more bigger concern is assistants leaving, like defensive coordinator Tony White, who's been phenomenal for them the past 3 years, or Robert Anai, like the quarterbacks coach. I think those are things that are more likely as some of the assistants going other places than Dino choosing to leave or being sent out.
Okay.
Because like to your point there, him being fired. I mean, what is? Sorry, last question. But what is the fan base's actual expectation of Syracuse football? Like, is it 7 wins? Like, I feel like you guys are going to you should beat Boston College. They're an actual dumpster fire program. But like, 6 wins. You were ranked. You're in the meat of the toughest part of your schedule. You're losing. That stinks, but it happens, right? Like, what do you know? What was the expectation of a team like Syracuse that they're in ACC football? They're only going to recruit so well. Like, it's hard. The expectations have to be like, it's tough being in that position where he's at, like 7 wins a season, 8 wins a season. Is that like
you've always been seen as a basketball school, right?
Yeah. Like, what's the realistic? What do you know? What the athletic department probably expects something, but like, what does the fan base expect from him?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing this year from the fan base was they wanted that bowl game too, just like being able to stick around for the postseason, getting to 6 wins. Most people didn't think they were going to be better than 6-6. So at this point, looking at a more than 50% chance that they finish 7-5 in the regular season with that Boston College game there at the end, that's pretty good for, I think, a lot of people. I mean, this is a team that's gone 5-7, 5-7, 1-10 in the past 3 years. Like, getting to a bowl game was a big deal for them. So the fact that they got that out of the way early, I think people are pleased.
Absolutely. I think that's
Emily.
Totally fair.
Emily, thank you so much for coming on the program, and for all our viewers, we'll see this tonight and later in the week, whatever. Please go and write to Emily there and share your comments. She does a great job reporting there at Syracuse, and we appreciate all the inside information. But Emily, it was great having you on the program, and please stay in touch. And if you have any questions for us ever, just hit us up.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Emily, where can they follow you on social media?
You can follow me on Twitter at EMLiker, Leiker.
Awesome. And
was I doing that correct all day?
Probably too much.
Yes.
So yeah, guys, follow us on Twitter. You can see her handle there, and it'll be on the episode as well. But go ahead and follow Emily. She's great, and follow her through the weekend. She'll have all the updates there. So thank you again, Emily, for everything.
And best of luck to you, Emily. And we hope you're not writing a story of how you beat Florida State. Okay. All right.
Awesome. Take care, Emily.
Thank you, Emily. Bye-bye.
Awesome. So once again, that's Emily Leiker of Syracuse.com for the great insight on the program there and what she expects. So, she's realistic. She expects a close game, but Florida State to come out top on
candid. She was candid.
On a hostile road environment. But she expects them to score a touchdown, which Miami couldn't do last weekend. So, so a lot more fights on, and it's senior day. So, like she said, it's going to be a hostile environment. B. Riley thinks it's going to be FSU 34-13 with or without Schrader. Assumption that's a lower body injury. Yeah, I think that's probably a good assumption. And like she said, Dino's basically confirmed it's not an upper body kind of concussion or neck injury.
Or an arm or a throat.
Yeah, so B. Riley, I think that's probably a good assumption there. That's something like that. And either if he does play, like you said, the lower body will probably limit what he can do with his legs, or they'll probably try to protect him in some way. So he'll probably be a little bit less effective. The guy that scares me, like I brought up before, is that 6'5" receiver, Gadsden. He's been sort of a monster for them. And if Schrader's in there, then that guy's going to be more effective than if Del Rio's in there. So you actually it's kind of get one or the other. If Schrader plays, he's probably going to be a little bit more limited in his running ability, but then you have to deal with Gadsden. If Del Rio's in there, less experience, but he's going to be a lot, he's going to
Here's the
use his
deal.
legs to full
Yeah.
effect.
Yeah.
But he's, Gatson probably will be less effective. So you get one or the other. They may use both. They may do the Miami thing and use 3 quarterbacks. You don't know.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, KB. I was going to say, I thought that was a disaster strategy by Miami. You're running these quarterbacks in and out.
Yeah.
Would it be better during the week if Coach Babers really thought that Schrader was not going to play? He should have turned the offense over.
We don't know.
But I'm just saying he should have, because when you've got that hesitation of who's going and so on, they should have never started TVD down there in Miami. That was a joke.
Well,
that was a hope and a prayer.
I think Dino's a better coach than Cristobal. I think he's probably doing the right thing right now.
Yeah, I think so. We're gonna find out. But that was a great guest, great insight from Emily. We appreciate her being on the program. So before we sign off tonight,
what's your final prediction? What's your prediction?
For prediction of the game, Florida State wins by 17.
By 17?
Florida State wins by 17. I don't know what the spread is on the game. What's the spread on the game?
The spread of the game is 7 points.
Yeah, I've got Florida State, if I did my math right, 38-21.
I'm gonna go with
38-21. If Schrader plays. Schrader plays the full game.
No, you can't say if you have so many conditions on your bed. Like, you can't say if he plays.
You don't think that's what the Vegas does? They want to know who's
they're
playing.
betting on it what it is before game time. So
yeah, and they know they got the real sources.
Okay, I'm gonna say 7 points would probably indicate that he is going to play, right?
Is that what it is? 7 points.
It's 7 points. Florida State by 7.
That would be an indicator that he's probably going to start. Yes, I would say that's correct.
So
and you're predicting Florida State, right?
Yeah, I'm going to say Florida State by 7. I'd say Florida State. I'm going to say Florida State 30-20.
I have to say this, like I said against Miami, this is another pressure game for Coach Norvell and the staff and this team. This is a game that I'm not going to say winnable, that we should win this game.
It's just about taking care of business.
It's taking care of business. We have a better football team. We have a healthy football team for the most part.
Yeah.
And if we take care of the football, we stay focused, we're disciplined about penalties, we should win this game going away.
Yeah. To your point, B. Riley. Yeah, they did take Zay Flowers out of the game. They did well with LSU's top receivers. So like you said, I think Fuller can scheme around it, especially if it's just one guy.
Exactly.
And especially
and getting a lot of pressure up front.
And if we shut down the run game, they're going to be so one-dimensional. So they got to set the tone early on the line. If they could set it on the line that Tucker is not going to run against this team, then they become super one-dimensional and it's ball game. So you set the tone early, like they did against Miami in the first quarter, and say, you're not going to run against us. We already saw what Verse can do against Syracuse when he played for Albany last year. He was able to get to the quarterback, and that line, their O-line is not very good. So, you look at those highlights of Albany against Syracuse, and he was able to get pressure with what Albany's defensive line was. Now put him with McLennan and Peyton and stuff, those guys, and trench rotate in the middle. I think they're going to be able to get pressure on the line. No matter what quarterback's back there. And I think it set the tone early, take care of business, get home, and look forward to Lafayette, and let's go for the next one. So,
all right, let's move on to the rumor mill. Is there disgruntlement in the kingdom?
Yeah,
is there disgruntlement? No. And I'm talking about the Sam McCall incident, which he tweeted out something. It was posted for about 5 minutes, and then it was taken down very quickly.
Okay, I don't want to spend a lot of time on this.
I don't either. I'm just saying, is this an indicator that, and we'll have a show on this down the road, but is this an indicator? I think it's an indicator. I think it's an indicator, not just for Sam McCall, but I'm saying that there will be people leaving our program because they're not getting what they think is the playing time on the field that they believe they're good enough to be there. Now, Sam McCall comes in as a 5-star. He's got expectations in his head, and he's probably embarrassed for his family, friends, other people. Sam, you're not even on the field anymore. You're not even doing kickoff returns anymore. So he is not happy. And I could see him leaving in the portal. I'm not predicting that. I think Coach Norvell handled that.
Sit somewhere else?
No, wait a minute. I think Coach Norvell has probably handled that very well. I think he handled the span incident very well. That there is frustration when you have a lot of athletes in a room and they can't get on the field when they think they deserve to be on it.
Yeah.
So that's all I'm saying. I don't think there's any general disgruntlement. I don't think there's any problems in the locker room. I'm not suggesting that. I'm just wanting to clear that up.
Yeah, I think it's just an 18-year-old kid that through high school, all through high school, he was the crown jewel of everyone's attention. And then you get into a locker room where guys have had to work for their spot, and you think you kind of feel entitled to it. And through 8 or 9 games, you're not starting, you're not getting the majority of reps. And that's why I sent out one tweet and I said, dude, just look at the guys that had to work. Like, look at Akeem Dent. He was a 5-star guy and he had to work to get that spot. And, he's
5
still
stars don't mean anything.
Look at Jamie Robinson had to transfer to get that spot. Like, he had to work to get that spot. Look at, Zaire Thomas is coming in and out. Like, these guys you're not guaranteed anything. You have to and I also truly believe that Mike Norvell's not going to put you in a spot where you're not going to succeed. Like, if he thought you were ready to take starter reps the full time, he would put you in there. But he's not going to put you out there to get embarrassed. I think that's the thing. If he thought you were going to be a star out there and you were ready, he would put you out there. So I think he's doing it for you. He wants you to develop so that when you get out there, you can put on a show. You can look good. And I think that's what these kids have to understand. Like, he's not holding you back intentionally, because if he thought you could help us win, you would put you out there. There's no incentive for him not to play you if you're ready to go. So I get it. Like, it's
frustrating.
You work hard all week. You want to get in. You want to play. I totally get that.
And it's like hard. In business. It's like in general business when you're working your ass off and you think you deserve a promotion and you don't get it.
Yeah,
that goes on in real life all the time.
And it's to be Riley's point, it's the social media era with the portal. It's people. It's you want instant you want instant gratification, and you've got people on social media saying he should play, so they can hear what they want to hear, because there's always some person that will tweet at them, why aren't you playing? Why aren't you playing? And he said, I can just throw my name in the portal. I can get someone who will actually play me, stuff like that. But now you can see those things. To his point, those frustrations can be digitized in a second. So they can say, I'm frustrated, I can go somewhere now. Where in the previous past, they would have to hold those things in and just keep working harder to get that spot. Today, they can throw out a tweet and it's like, oh gosh, like, why did I do that? And I think it was a mistake. And all throughout the week from the practice reports, he's been working the same.
Oh yeah, he's working. He's out there. It's been normal, and I'm not suggesting anything else.
He may go, he may stay. I hope he stays. I hope he keeps working at the team. So I think he has a future. But like I said, look at guys like Akeem.
Freshman.
Look at guys like Akeem. Like, those guys could have left, went to small. Like, he was a 5-star. I didn't think it was going to work out the first couple, but he's kept working at it. He kept progressing through multiple coaching staffs. Look at, you got to work at this thing. Whatever it's going to serve him a life lesson going forward. And that's I hope he stays, because I think Mike is doing what's best for him. And I know it's tough when you're a 5-star and people are catering to you and telling you what you want to hear. It's tough to get into a locker room like that and not automatically get a role. So I hope, but like you said, I think it's just this generation's there's going to be a lot of guys in different locker rooms. I think
the off season is going to be very interesting. And I tweeted about that. I think that's going to be very interesting, because I tweeted with one of our followers back and forth a little bit about, he said Jared Verse. Do you think Jared's going to go? Is he could maybe the NIL at Florida State give him $5 million to stay? And I said, there's no way
I don't think
he's going to get $5 million. I don't either. $5 million to stay. And that gets into the question that's going to make it very interesting. Who walks in and says, hey, listen, I'll stay if I get this, and so on and so on. It's got to be unbelievable to be a fly on the wall around the football operations offices. And that's all I got to say.
Another topic.
The last thing I got before we check out here tonight is the weather report, my infamous weather report. Wait a minute. Okay. It's an 8 p.m. kick, right? 8 p.m. kick on the ACC on ESPN. Is that how that works?
It's ACC Network. It's ACC Network.
Are they owned by ESPN? Are they right on the ESPN? Whatever. Okay, 8 p.m. But here's the good news. It's going to be 40. No, this is the bad news. 46 degrees and possibly rain showers when you're walking from your car to the dome, baby, to the dome. Okay. And that's good news for Florida State. That's real good news. They don't have to wear the heavy jackets and the hoods and bring in the heaters. And
It gets loud in there.
And all that. It gets loud. They'll have about 50,000 in there. I bet that's what I'm thinking.
No, it's going to be packed. It'll be packed in there.
I think 50,000.
Exactly, B. Riley. Brother report for a dome game. I agree.
Hey, B. Riley, I give the weather report no matter.
He's losing.
You know what? You know what? But inside, do you know what? Hey, do you know what the average temperature inside a dome usually is for a sporting event?
I don't think I've ever been to a dome.
Okay, do you? I thought you went to the dome in Dallas one time. I thought you went to
I did. That was nice. That's like a nice dome.
Okay, but do you know what the average temperature is?
I should say crap hole
B.
dome.
Riley, not looking it up, or any other viewers out there. Do you know what the average temperature is for a game?
I would say like 70.
Yeah, you're there. The range is 70 to 75. 70 to 75, okay?
The candles are atrocious.
Yeah. 70 to 75 degrees. The ideal temperature for football is usually in the 60 to 65, okay?
B. Riley thought it was 82.
No, it's not 82. No, they're not going to have that up.
That could be an advantage, though. They crank up the heat a little bit, and they try to switch you out.
That is your Seminole Sideline 365 weather report. And sometimes we have guests. We're going to have more guests do our weather reports. But
I don't think
that was fun.
All right.
But that's what I got, brother.
All right. Well, join us on Saturday night, probably 11:30 for our post-game reaction. Hopefully it's for a dominating win, but you never know with this team what will happen. So, we'll be hosting that post-game live reaction 11 o'clock or so on Saturday, post-game, win or lose. So join us for that. If you can't make it, watch the recording. If you don't mind, please like the video, share it with a friend on social media, subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate all the support, y'all. We hit 100 followers on Twitter. We appreciate it. We appreciate the support, y'all. But enjoy the game. It's tomorrow's Friday, so enjoy your weekend. Do something fun. Be safe. And join us again on Saturday. Bring a small drink or whatever you enjoy, a little snack on Saturday night at 11. And we'll have a fun little reaction with you guys. So we'll see you then. Have a safe Thursday night, Friday, and we'll see you Saturday.
And I hope I have my victory glasses on Saturday night.
If we don't, it's going to be a fun one. So, if we lose, definitely join. All right. Take care, y'all. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.